We are inside the waning hours of the trading deadline. It expires at 5 o'clock on Thursday. The Brewers are in the market for a few names out there, although one insider says the Brewers won't do much. Other teams in the division are. We'll get to that next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
One of the big chips that the Brewer fans and yours truly were very interested in is off the table right now on the trade market. We'll get to that and see what the Brewers are up to, including one insider says, well, the Brewers won't do anything or unless something really falls into their lap. The Brewers do take 2 of 3 in their series with the Cubs. Questions arise about the hustle of William Contreras. We'll get into that. Churio's injury. All is quiet right now. Why is that? We'll get to that as well. Hey, everybody, Chuck Freimund, your host of Locked On Brewers, longtime sportscaster here in the state of Wisconsin, and proud host of Locked On Brewers, longtime Brewers fan, longtime Wisconsin resident, and they are my favorite team here in the state, and I'm glad talking Brewers baseball with you each and every day. All right, the trading deadline, 5 o'clock, as I said on Thursday. I'll start off with this. Jeff Passan from ESPN put out a tweet. Says the Brewers won't do much unless value falls into their laps. Brewers fans, I know you don't want to hear that. I know you don't want to hear that, especially coming off a lopsided loss to the Cubs, and the Brewers did take 2 of 3 in that series. I said late last week, I said, man, the things are going so well with the Brewers. You almost don't want to make a move to shake up the apple cart, right? Shake up the cradle because things are so going so well for these guys. But yeah, the way you look at certain things with the Brewers, left side of the infield, all sediments aside, an upgrade certainly would do these guys some good. Now, off the table is Suarez. I know many of you guys, including me, wanted Suarez. If I were to list my top 3 or 4 or 5 different guys who I want, Suarez, the third baseman from Arizona, he goes to Seattle for 3 prospects, the 9th, 16th, and 17th best prospects in the Mariners organization. Suarez goes back to Seattle, where he was a fan favorite, rejoins Seattle. But big move for Suarez going to Seattle. Mariners were hot on his trail. Brewers had this ammunition to get Suarez. They could have got him. They have enough there, right? They have enough. They did not pull the trigger on the Suarez move. He goes to Seattle. So disheartening. I know, just checking Twitter, including me. Yep. I mean, this guy would have been great at third base. I know he's a rental. You get him for a couple of months, and it's going to cost you a little bit. But, man, having a power hitting third baseman like that, I wanted him in last offseason. I mentioned, I said, let's go and somehow make a trade for this guy. He was tendered an offer by Arizona, stayed with them, and he's having a pretty good year. He's been hit on the hand a few times by pitches, both in the All-Star game and the other night. But, man, I think a lot of you guys are disappointed, including yours truly, that Suarez is going to Seattle. A name that has been brought up mildly is Stephen Kwan, that the Brewers, I have heard, have been showing some interest in the Cleveland All-Star left fielder, Stephen Kwan. Eligible for arbitration in 2026. The Brewers would have 3 years of control with this guy. Leadoff guy with Cleveland, left-hander, can just get out of the box. He's batting .286, 9 home runs. Love him a lot. Didn't think he'd be on the trade block, but apparently he is in Cleveland. The Brewers have checked in on that. Now, I know what you're saying. Hey, the Brewers already got themselves a left fielder. His name is Isaac Collins. I love Ike Collins. I think he's been terrific so far. He's been a big part of this season. Clutch hits all over the board for Ike Collins. But Stephen Kwan is a better player. Ike Collins is playing gold glove type defense in left field. The number of plays, banging against the wall, sliding catches. You can play that guy anywhere. You can play him in the infield. But that's just the beauty with Isaac Collins. I'm not saying we're going to bench Isaac Collins, but Stephen Kwan, in left field over Isaac Collins? Come on, right? If I can get Stephen Kwan, if Cleveland is willing to part with the All-Star, I would take him immediately. Man, imagine that guy at the top of the order, right? Put him at the top of the order. Put him next to Frelick in the order. Got two guys who can make some action happen on the base paths. Oh, man, that would be great. Stephen Kwan. Brewers have inquired about Stephen Kwan. I'm recording this podcast at about 1 o'clock Central Time. So if something falls between 1 o'clock Central and by the time you download this podcast, maybe in the morning when you get it, I just want to let you know that this is when I'm recording this. So anyway, Stephen Kwan is the latest. No more rumblings about the Brewers showing interest in Ryan O'Hearn, the Baltimore first baseman, who I told you yesterday, hey, I got myself a first baseman already, and that's Andrew Vaughn over at first base. So I don't have any interest in him. Willie Castro, the shortstop from Minnesota, the former Tiger. Yeah, I'd like him. He's another guy. All-out player, Willie Castro. Haven't heard anything if the Brewers are showing any interest or haven't seen any of those insiders out there talking about him at all. But Willie Castro certainly would be a guy I'm interested in. He'd be in my top 5. Number 1 is Ramirez of Cleveland. If I could get Ramirez from Cleveland, man, I'd be planning I wouldn't be planning on covering the Packers in October. I'd be planning on covering and being at Milwaukee Brewers games in October, because Brewers baseball, if everything went right, if they got Ramirez, man, Jesus, that would be just an amazing piece. But yeah, rumor mill is very low on that. Either way, now fans are getting a little excited because the Brewers haven't done much. They got Danny Jansen from Tampa the other day, the backup catcher, which was a little odd because you didn't think the Brewers were going to go after any catching help, but they felt they could upgrade over Haas, and they did. And that's been the only move the Brewers have made. Now they're in a race with the Cubs. Who's going to get better at this point? Brewers have a 1-game lead on the Cubs. The Cubs have already gotten better. They got Kittredge from Baltimore, who pitched actually on Wednesday. Looked good for Baltimore. Kittredge, the former Cardinal. I'm not a big fan of Andrew Kittredge, but he's got some good stuff, and he's going in that Cubs bullpen. Cubs also picked up Soroka, who's a real good pitcher, all-star caliber pitcher. They got him, and they'll add him to the starting rotation, which means Colin Ray, the former Brewer, I would say is probably the odd man out with the Cubs. Soroka is going to the Cubs. So they got Kittredge and Soroka. The Cardinals dealt, let's see, who did they trade? Helsley. Oh, they traded Helsley to the Mets. And that was rumored that they were going to trade him. They trade him to the Mets. The Mets just continue to stock up on bullpen help. So that's what the Mets are doing. The Reds. You wouldn't think the Reds are going to be, and I'm talking about teams in the division right now. You didn't think the Reds were going to be a player, but they are. They got themselves Brian Hayes from Pittsburgh, Gold Glove type third baseman. Not a great hitter, but they're going to have team control over him. That's a great pickup for the Reds. And they also got Zach Littell, starting pitcher, who actually pitched on Wednesday as well. So they've already made a couple of moves, the Reds have. And the Reds hanging by a thread in the division race, but more importantly for them, they're very much in the wild card race. So the Reds have made some moves. The Cubs have made some moves. The Cardinals are sellers because of a terrible July. And the Brewers today made 0 moves. 0 moves on Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. But just one more rumor added with the Stephen Kwan showing some interest in the all-star outfielder for the Cardinals. And that's pretty much it. That's where we stand as far as trading deadline rumors and news with the Milwaukee Brewers. No news so far, but I did not like to hear the Jeff Passan tweet where he said tonight at actually said this earlier today. The Brewers won't do much unless value falls in their lap. Mark Attanasio, you got the number one team in Major League Baseball right now. You got the best team in Major League Baseball. There's a number of people who feel that way. You got to upgrade this team. If you feel you can, if this is your year, and I really think this is their year. I really think, in my heart of hearts, I've told you, this Brewers team doesn't have to take a backseat to anybody. Not the Dodgers, who got beat by the Reds. Certainly not this Cubs team that we saw here at AmFam Field the last 3 games, and the Cubs busted out of it on Wednesday to win the finale. The Mets, Phillies, the Brewers swept the Phillies in a 3-game set earlier this year. San Diego, sliding San Francisco. Please. The National League is very wide open. And a World Series possibility is very wide open. Mark Attanasio owes it to the fans. If they feel they can upgrade without giving out the keys to the kingdom, they got to do it, man. Owes it to the great fans. Another sellout at AmFam Field. 5 of the last 6 games at AmFam Field sold out. Fans, there's a great interest in the Brewers right now. There's just an amazing buzz, because this time of the year, when Packers training camp opens, usually they get all the headlines, they get all the attention. It's right now the Milwaukee Brewers, after that 8-game winning streak recently, and the way they just kind of took off and have emerged into first place here in the National League Central, and the best team in baseball. The best team in baseball. 20 games over the 500 mark. Has a team that has ever been the best team in baseball at the trading deadline been so quiet? One move. Still got some hours left. We'll see what the Brewers do. All right, the Brewers do take 2 of 3 from the Cubs. We're going to get into that. William Contreras. Some of you have not been happy that William Contreras has not been running out grounders. Well, I might have bit him on Wednesday. Manager Pat Murphy, interesting comments from him as well on that. We'll get to that coming up next. Chuck Freimund here on, look, I got stuff falling down in my studio here. Chuck Freimund here on Locked On Brewers. Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. And this episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy, a great new sponsor here of Locked On Brewers. And, you know, I've told you, I take a 5 Hour Energy every day, especially when I'm going to go golfing. You know, you want the concentration level sometimes before the podcast. But if not only does it make you alert, but it just gets you your mind. It gives you that extra something special in your mind, in your head, the alertness, the thought process. It's all there with 5 Hour Energy. I was a doubter at one point, and then I started taking one. I take one once a day, usually after lunch. And I'm telling you, if you got the afternoon drowsies or whatever, 5 Hour Energy is the way to go. Well, go to 5 Hour Energy. That's the number 5, by the way. The number 5, hourenergy.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF. Locked On Golf, and you'll receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order. Cannot be used with other promotions, but the code is not good with subscription orders. But go to Locked On Golf, I should say. That's my promo code, Locked On Golf, on 5hourenergy.com. You'll receive 20% off your order with 5 Hour Energy. Chuck Freimund here on Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. I am just checking Twitter here as we're moving along to make sure nothing has happened since we've started the show, and nothing. We're in the early morning hours on Thursday morning dropping this podcast. Like I said, the Brewers took 2 or 3, and that was one of the few games this year. The Brewers did not play well. They did not play well. It was a terrible start. First loss for Freddie Peralta since June 3rd. Pretty good run he's been on, right? He's 12-5 on the season right now, all-star. And some of you got on him today on Twitter, and I saw that where it says, well, Freddie's not an ace. Well, okay, we're not going to get into that, but he's been pitching like an ace. So we're not going to get into well, is Freddie an ace or Freddie is not an ace? I don't care. Freddie's been pitching like an all-star. Okay, that's all I care. He had a bad outing, gave up a leadoff home run, first pitch of the game, and it began to unravel. And DL Hall did not have a very good outing either. So they lose, but they took 2 of 3. Yeah, it would have been great to sweep the Cubs and move 3 games up, but I'll take 2 of 3 from these guys. Absolutely. Nothing that the Brewers did on Wednesday. Man, you're going to step in the bucket. There's not many times, like I said, where the Brewers have been crushed in games this year. There haven't been many games like that where just I feel like every game, win or lose, when they lose, they're right there in the 9th inning making some noise. Like I said, one of the few times this year that they have been blown out. So they'll go into an off day on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Washington against the last place Nationals. And then the team that's just ahead of them in the standings, the sorry Atlanta Braves. God, the Braves are just brutal. Man, I didn't expect them to be this bad this year. They got off to a bad start, made a little bit of a run, and they are not very good. Both of those teams in the National League East, the last place and the second to last place, the Brewers play the Washington Nationals and Atlanta Braves on this road trip. But again, can't take those games lightly. We'll be talking more about those teams a little bit later on in the week. So that's for the Brewers again, Thursday with the trading deadline. Only 3 games in Major League Baseball I saw. So that's where the Brewers stand. They're 1 game ahead in the standings. And yeah, that was an amazing 3-game series. That was kind of a dud on Wednesday, but still Monday and Tuesday, a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement in the stands. Love to play the Cubs in the postseason. Love to play the Cubs in the postseason and just eliminate them. Man, you Cub fans coming at me today because you won a game going away. Some of these fans came at me today because they won. I mean, the Brewers won 2 of 3. Cubs fan, you don't have anything to stand on. I know the whole Packer Bears thing that the Packers, I know you're embarrassed because the small market Green Bay Packers own the Bears, and you're embarrassed because small market Milwaukee, who's never won a World Series title, has owned the Cubs the last couple of years. But don't take it out on me. I'm just the messenger. All right. One other thing in that game on Wednesday is there was a chopper that was hit, a ground ball that was hit by Contreras, and he jogged down the line at first place to first base. And if he would have ran full out, he might have beaten it out because the Cubs did not make a clean play on it. And this was the first time where this is caught up to Contreras. We've seen Contreras hit ground balls or lazy fly balls or whatever, and he's just jogging down to first base. Well, Pat Murphy was not happy about that. Murphy was asked about that after the game, and Murphy says, well, you know what? If he hits a hard shot to third or hard shot to second or shortstop, I'm paraphrasing, he doesn't have to run hard. I'm okay with that. If he, which I'm surprised he's accepting that, but let's face it, Contreras is playing every day as a catcher and all that. He's caught the most games of any player in baseball. And I'm not making an excuse for him, but kind of I am, that they are cutting him some slack on running out some of these balls. But he says, Murphy, on the other hand, says, hey, on those slowly hit balls, that's not acceptable right there. That's not how we play. That is not acceptable right there. So I thought Contreras kind of, when he was asked in the locker room after the game, he kind of blew off the question. Didn't think it was that big of a deal. But Contreras has got to run out those balls. All right. It came back to bit him. He said the previous inning was a long inning on him. Yeah, Contreras, we know him as a gamer. He never wants to take an inning off. He doesn't want to come out of the game. He wants to be in the lineup every day, whether he's catching or DHing. And I get that. I love that with Contreras. But still, I don't like the Manny Machado he does. Machado, when I see Machado jog down to first base with the Padres, God, if I was a Padres fan watching that every day, I would just lose my mind. I just hate that when Vlad does that with Toronto. There's a few other guys that do it. And Contreras does that with Milwaukee, and I don't like it. And I don't like it. And we've talked about it maybe a little bit. I've gotten questions on it, but this is the first time it's come back to bit him. We'll see if it does anymore with Contreras. But I can tell you that Murphy was not happy after the game talking about that with the media. All right, we come back. We'll give you a Churiel update on his injury. You know, Churiel went down with a hamstring injury on Wednesday. And I'll tell you why. I don't think we have much news on Churiel. I'll tell you that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers. Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. And by the way, our podcast, get us on Google, Spotify, Apple. We're on all the major downloads out there. Wherever you download your audio podcast on all those platforms, we're the number one Brewers podcast on the internet because of you, great Brewers fans out there tuning us each and every day. And please continue to DM me or Facebook friend me and message me. I love hearing where you guys listen to this from. Man, I got so many fans out there texted me from all over the country. And Facebook, if you want to do that, hit me up on Facebook on that. That is great. Heard from a guy in Upper Michigan today. Again, finding out that just not Wisconsin, it's all over the state, all over the Midwest, and all over the country that there are great Brewers fans out there. And I appreciate you. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you listening in. And you're the reason why this has been such a fast-growing podcast, Locked On Brewers. And by the way, you can also get us on YouTube. If you already download us on the audio platform, go to our growing YouTube page, search Locked On Brewers on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. Churiel did not play Wednesday, and we kind of suspected that. Hamstring spasms after he legged out that triple on Tuesday night. The Brewers didn't have anything to say about that today. They had no update. Now, come on. This day and age, I didn't believe that 1 second. The Brewers know what's up with Churiel. But with the trading deadline happening on Thursday, Brewers aren't going to give away any news. They're not going to, who knows? And I'm not saying this is the case, but what if Churiel has to miss an extended period of time and the Brewers were going to go out and get themselves an outfielder? Let's say they were interested in Kwan, and that's the reason why. Because let's say Churiel's got to miss an extended period of time. Well, they're not going to come out and say, well, we have Churiel where he's going to miss some playing time with us. So Cleveland, we need your Stephen Kwan. Well, the price just goes up for the Brewers. So Brewers are playing quiet on this. They're playing dumb. They're just, they're going to play, hey, no news on Churiel. Of course they know. It's the 2025. So they are very quiet. And the reason why they're downplaying it is because of the trading deadline. So he wasn't in the lineup. Not surprised. Let's hope it's nothing, that it is a spasm. And who knows? The Brewers say it's a spasm. I've been around a little bit covering professional sports. What the Brewers say it is, or what any professional sports team says it is, and what it really is, sometimes are two different things. They don't always tell us what's really going on. And they don't need to, because there's 30 other teams, 29 other teams that they got to worry about. So hopefully Churiel's back in the lineup on Friday and Thursday with the off day, because obviously they need him. Not the reason why they lost on Wednesday, but obviously he is electrifying. A couple of other notes. Robert Gasser, sounds like late August he's going to return to the rotation. He's coming back from Tommy John, and felt good in his outing with the Timber Rattlers on Wednesday. Struck out 4, felt really, really good, and continues to make great progression from Tommy John. I feel like these guys are coming back quicker and quicker every year or so. And talking about with Churiel here about how we don't know any news within 24 hours of his hamstring injury. Gasser, the medical advice, the technology today and some of these surgeries used to be, if you had a Tommy John surgery, that would be 2 years, maybe 3 years. But with the advances of that, and sometimes the Tommy John surgery would be a death sentence for a guy's career. Now today, Gasser, who pitched last year, could be coming back at the end of the season this year. They're saying late August, but I look at it, no rush to get Robert Gasser back on this team. None whatsoever. So that's it. I'm going to check Twitter one more time. And so far, no other news as we are in the middle of the night doing this podcast here on Locked On Brewers, the Locked On Brewers studio. Anything happens on Thursday, I'll be jumping in. I'll be doing a short video. I'll be, if I'm remote, I will do it. I will keep you guys posted with news and commentary on any moves the Brewers make on Thursday. The deadline again is at 5 o'clock. And hopefully the Brewers they have all the assets in the world. They can improve this team. They feel they need to improve it in a few areas, and we like to think the left side of the infield needs some improvement. They need to make the move. They have the assets. They have the wherewithal to do it. And it's the ownership that owes it to the Brewer fans, you great Brewer fans, to keep this team. Because if you do not make a move, and this team goes in reverse, and that left side of the infield continues to be in a malaise, they're going to take some heat, ownership and the front office. But we'll see what they do on Thursday. We'll be back here Thursday night with a podcast updating anything that went on. My name is Chuck Freimund. Thanks for making us your first listen to every day here on Locked On Brewers. Get us on Google, Spotify, Apple, wherever you download your audio podcast. We're the #1 Brewers podcast on the internet because you great Brewer fans out there. We'll talk to you all Thursday. Have yourself a great day, everybody. Thanks for listening to Locked On Brewers.